What is going on YouTube? My name is Josh Frink, your favorite professional Pokemon TCG player, and today we are going to be doing something a little bit differently. I did have this idea from a stream I was doing the other day. I had someone come into chat and ask me for resources to become better at the Pokemon TCG. They were a new player looking for ways to get better, to improve more quickly. And so today we are going to be taking a look at all of the resources that I have compiled for you to improve at the Pokemon TCG completely for free. If you're interested in seeing a video on ways to improve that you would have to spend money on, please go ahead and leave a comment down below letting me know what you're looking for personally, because I certainly have lots of paid resources as well. But I figured for this first video, we want to make it as accessible as possible. So we're going to be covering free resources today. Now, starting off, we are going to look at limitlesstcg.com. This is the place to be. If you take anything from this video today, limitlesstcg.com, you are going to find so much information about how to become a better player just by scrolling through this tab right here. This tournaments tab gives you a full list of all of the tournaments that have taken place, the major tournaments that have taken place in the entire world. You know, you can filter it all the way back to however long ago. But if you're looking to improve right now to get actual information on the current format, you can go right here, Brilliant Stars to Stellar Crown, apply selection, and it will show you just the tournaments in the current format. When you click on the tournament, it gives you the results, the players who did the best, all the way down to the bottom of day 2. Every player who made day 2 will have a limitless entry for that tournament. And not only do they get an entry, we have deck lists of all of the decks that performed at these events. So you can literally go through all of these tournaments and look at every single deck that was able to make it into day 2. I cannot even begin to explain how important that is to becoming better. The second that you start using better deck lists, the second that you start using lists that are proven, that have shown results, right, the better you're going to become at Pokemon, because these decks perform well for a reason, right? We see James Cox here playing a list. He's one of the best players in the games. James Cox is one of the Australian players, one of the best players in the game, using a list that was popularized by John Ang and Isaiah Bradner. It's an incredibly strong list, but the second that you up the caliber of list that you're playing, you'll kind of get a feel for what level of consistency, what level of strength, what things that you want to be putting in deck lists. Another way that you can do that specifically is you can look at the cards overall, right? So if we're looking at Lugia Archeops, it's going to show you the average numbers of each card in day 2 in an event. So right here, we have Lugia. You can tab down and look at Regidrago. This will show you the average number of inclusion of every card in a deck. So you have 3.13 Teal Mask Ogerpon. And so you can see from a grander scale, from a macro scale, what things have been seeing more success, what things have been seeing less success. So I know a lot of people were holding on to Hisui and Gudra in this specific format, but not seeing so much success, not seeing a huge conversion rate into that day 2. Where something like Radiant Charizard, something like Pheasantipity EX are seeing a high conversion rate into day 2, right? And so by looking at these stats, it gives you a fuller understanding of what is seeing success at actual tournaments, at practical tournaments, right? Where these players are competing for thousands and thousands of dollars in prizes. We can also take a look at statistics, right? This is going to show you your meta share for day 2, as well as the count. There were 1,311 players at Lille over in France, and it does also have the graphics from the actual stream, the actual official Pokemon stream, so you can see what decks were most popular in day 1 and how those decks then converted into day 2. So for example, we have Raging Bolt at the top in day 1, but you look at day 2 and Raging Bolt has moved all the way down to the bottom of that first page, where something like Gardevoir was, 8th best in day 1, but moved all the way up to 5th. Something like Snorlax wasn't even on this list and moved up to 4th. And so having a full picture of how the metas are shaping, what's doing well, and what specific cards are in the list that are doing well is one of the best ways that you can improve. Something else that we can take a look at as well is the City Leagues tab. This isn't like a huge deal. These tournaments aren't massive. Essentially, they are Japanese League Cups. They're local events. But if you are looking to get resources for future formats for us, these tournaments are being played in the Surging Sparks format. But in the future, right, any format that is released in Japan before it's released here, you can get a decent picture of what is seeing success over there. So you'll see Goldango is doing well, but it's not the Goldango we're familiar with. It's got a new Gimme Ghoul, it's got a new Ace spec, as well as a whole slew of different cards here as well. So Limitless gives you so much information. If you have specific players that you're interested in, you can go here. It'll show you all of their tournament results as well, right? If you're a big fan of Gardevoir like me, you can look at my Limitless page. You can look at somebody like Tord, right? If you're trying to look at a very specific person and see how they have been performing, obviously Tord's Limitless page is quite impressive, but you can see the decks that they're tending towards because some of the best players in the game, generally speaking, are going to be playing some of the best decks. If you're interested in a specific deck, you're looking to see exactly what has been doing well in that archetype, you can go here as well. And there's the core cards for the current format. You can see all of the players that have been seeing success with the deck at the various events. And you can just click on their list right from here. So if you take anything away from this video, please remember limitlesstcg.com. All of the links to all of the places that I referenced in this video will be in the description down below. So don't be afraid to go down there and click on those links. But this is the most basic place that you can go to start improving. The more information you have, the more you start to understand the way that good players are building their decks, the better you're going to get. I guarantee that. Now, Limitless is also responsible for play.limitlesstcg.com. This is an online tournament resource. So what you do is you'll come here and you can go to tournaments, which is where I am right now. And you'll see if you just scroll down here, I have it filtered to just Pokemon tournaments. But if you scroll down here, you can see all of these tournaments that you yourself can enter. And this is going to be some higher quality practice, right? As opposed to just going to your local and playing against them. These are full tournaments that you can play in, and some of them are rather large. So it's going to give you that actual like large tournament feel. You can see the late night tournaments, which are hosted by the Shovel Squad, the team that I'm a part of, are going to be fantastic places to start. They're generally pretty big. Deck Out is another great one. Generally speaking, these larger online tournaments are going to be great ways to get practice against higher caliber players, right? As opposed to just playing a game on the ladder in Pokeball tier and Great Ball tier, playing in an actual tournament, getting practice with your specific deck, your specific 60 is a great way to improve at the game. You'll see lots of people from the COVID era of Pokemon who are just playing in all these online tournaments have translated a lot of that success into actual success in tournaments. I think a perfect example of that would be Andrew Hedrick, who was a huge online warrior over COVID and has now won basically everything except for Worlds. So yeah, definitely a great resource here as well. Next up here, we are going to talk about the Pokemon TCG Live ladder. I'd like to make a note right at the beginning here that until you get up to high ladder, basically Arceus tier, the practice that you get isn't going to be excellent. You're not going to be playing against the best players consistently, so the practice that you get is going to be shoddy at best. However, once you get into Arceus tier, it is going to be some of the most efficient practice that you can get because you can play so many games in such a small amount of time against other solid players who are practicing for tournaments. So if you can get yourself up to Arceus tier, that is going to be some excellent practice, and I absolutely recommend it. But the next thing I want to recommend here is something that you can do at any level of play, and that is going to have to do with the battle log right here. If you click battle log after you finish a game on the victory screen, what you can do is click battle log, click here to export your battle log, and then we're going to go ahead and head over to trainingcourt.app. Now, this is an application that was made by a couple of my friends, JW Krewall and Jared Grimes, both fantastic Pokemon players, very passionate about improving the game. And what you can do here is you can paste your export into this little thing here, you'll see that a new game has popped up. It gives you a record of what happened, win versus Raging Bolt, whether you went first or second. And then if you double click on it, it gives you a full breakdown of everything that happened in your game. So you can literally scroll through here and see every single thing that happened on every single turn of the game. So here I was playing Gardevoir against Raging Bolt, and so I can literally go back and see a play-by-play of each one of my actions on this application. And that's important because one of the best ways to improve your game is to review your plays and think about places that you could have improved or could have made different decisions in order to change the outcome. And one of the best things about this application is that you can write little notes here. So if you find something in your gameplay and you're like, oh, well, I, drew Drifloon and then I Ultra Balled away 2 cards, Iono and Pheasantipity, and I got a Curlia. But maybe instead of that, I should have Ultra Balled for a Gardevoir. I can go, okay, well here, up in my notes, better to get Gardevoir, turn to Ultra Ball. And so then when you're reviewing your plays like this, you're going to find instances where you can actually improve the gameplay that you're making. And so after each and every game, if you're really doing a grindy practice session, it's going to be an excellent resource to be able to log your games here. Another awesome feature of Training Court is the tournament tracker that they have here. All you have to do in order to log your tournament results is go over here, add a tournament. Let's say this is a League Cup. I'll spell Chicago right. You get to pick a date. Let's say it was today. I didn't actually go to a cup today, but for the sake of the video, let's say that I won the whole thing. So you just click add tournament here. You can go here, add the deck that you were playing. Let's say I played Gardevoir. If you want, you can add a second Pokemon. I'm going to go ahead and put Pheasantipity here just to show that I'm playing Turbo Gardevoir. And then what you can do is you can add your rounds. Let's say our opponent was playing Lost Box. So we go ahead and add Comfy. We add Greninja. You can mark whether you won, lost, or tied. If there was a best of 3 cup that you played in, you can add game 2 and game 3 here as well. And then once you have that result, you add a round, you can do that, so on and so forth. And so you can actually keep a log of all of the tournaments that you play in, right? So it has your results, it has what you finished as well. And so you can keep real tabs on how you're performing at actual events. This is a great way to hold yourself accountable to specific goals in terms of placements. It's a great way to track your progress as well. So I definitely recommend Training Court. Be sure to go over there, export your TCG live logs so that you can start looking for some places to improve in your own play. Getting into the YouTube side of things here, we are going to be starting with the man, the myth, the legend, Azul GG. Now, Azul makes fantastic content for the Pokemon trading card game. He posts videos almost daily, if not daily at this point. And he is also one of, if not the best player in North America, arguably the best player in the game right now, if you want to die on that hill against Tord Reklev, but certainly the best player that is making consistent content. And while all of his videos are fantastic, you'll see, a lot of him going through different decks, playing games with them, and then, ultimately posting the list that he lands on that he thinks is the best. While all of that is fantastic, I do think the most important things that we should be looking at are his VOD reviews. Now, when Azul streams regionals that are going on around the world and he commentates over all of these matches, not only does he give you high-level commentary that's entertaining to watch, but the things that he talks about are incredibly high-level, skill-intensive things. If you take any YouTube thing away from the video today, go and watch Azul commentating other people's games, because it is a very rare opportunity for free to get analysis and thought processes from a player of Azul's caliber. And we get it consistently, right? Right now, Azul has been taking a break from competing, and so he has been VOD reviewing all of the regionals, live streaming all of the regionals while they're happening. And I cannot stress enough how fantastic of a resource this is. Everything that this man says is gold. So if you're looking to improve, definitely go and watch him. We have a few more channels here. The next thing that we're going to talk about is OmniPoke. OmniPoke is a fantastic player from the UK. Joe over at OmniPoke is a wonderful player, wonderful content creator. He's also a caster for some of the official Pokemon tournaments. And if you are looking for data-driven content where, you know, he plays a ton of games and you know, uses those games to really like give you as much information as possible, Joe is a fantastic creator. He is constantly putting out excellent content. You know, there's set reviews and things like that, but also he does something that not very many other people do, and that's he takes a look at regional top 8s and meta-analyses and sort of talks about the way that that is going to impact tournaments going forward. And so I love Joe's videos. He's a fantastic player, fantastic content creator. Next up, we have James Cox. Now, James Cox's name might look familiar from earlier in this video. He is the Lille regional champion. He won the most recent regional as of recording this. You'll notice that his videos are a little bit few and far between, but generally speaking, the quality of them is absolutely fantastic. What he consistently does is he takes players that have high finishes at major events, the deck that they played to that event, and then he does long form content going into the nitty gritty of each of those decks. This video of him talking to Stefan about Gardevoir EX is fantastic. Video of him talking to Andrew Hedrick about Lost Box is fantastic. I genuinely think that James makes some of, if not the best content for learning the Pokemon TCG. So when he puts a video out, make sure that you are going and watching it. Next up, we have Kieran Farah. This is a little bit of bias. Kieran is a friend of mine and personally just like one of my favorite players in the game. I think Kieran is all around an incredibly nice guy, but he's also a fantastic player. He has been able to top 8 both of the North American regionals, or sorry, the US regionals so far this season, with the same 60 in both of them, despite both of those regionals being different formats, one with Stellar Crown, one without. But Kieran also makes fantastic long form content. He has a tendency to hyperfixate on certain decks in a format, and so he will only make content around those specific decks, but when he puts that content out, it is fantastic. This Chen Pao guide with Grant Shen, Lucas Jing, and Reagan Retzloff was fantastic. Plug myself a little bit here. I did a Gardevoir guide with him right after NAIC. So Kieran is a great resource for learning very specific decks, but if you like those heavy sequencing, like really interactive decks, that tends to be what Kieran plays. Recently, he's been a bit of a Lugia bot, but we won't hold it against him. Still a fantastic player, fantastic content creator. Next up, we are going to take a look at Celio's network. Luke Morsa is a wonderful human being, and that has nothing to do with his content, but I'm always shilling for him because I think his content is also excellent. He deep dives a lot into Japanese results. You know, a lot of Celio's content comes from metagaming, analyzing metagames, and predicting what decks are going to be strong. And he gets a really solid read on that by looking at Japanese results and anticipating how metagames are going to develop over here. You'll see he does breakdowns of the best decks. Generally, he does those monthly, you know, talking about the ways that various tournaments impact what decks are stronger or weaker at the time. So definitely check out Celio. He also does some really, really cool retro content. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to check him out as well. Last but not least, we have Rahul Reddy talking about people who have top 8'd multiple events so far this season. With Lugia, we have Rahul. Rahul has just consistently been one of the best players in the game for a long time. Rahul and I over the last year have gotten the opportunity to become closer, and just a nice guy, very talented player who makes very interesting content. Recently, he's been kind of going out into the playing games with upcoming cards. And it's very interesting to see how such a high-level player sort of analyzes these new cards that are coming out, sort of how he determines what is going to be strong or weak based on his experience in the game. So yeah, those are the individual YouTubers that I like. I will say something very important about this is, as long as you go and you see that this is a trusted source of knowledge for Pokemon, there are a slew of fantastic YouTubers, Pokemon content creators out there that are going to be able to help you learn. Basically, the advice here is that you want to consume as much content as possible. Like I said earlier, the more information you have, the easier that it is going to be to grow. So there are plenty of other people that you can check out that are going to be fantastic for your education. There are also some podcasts that I didn't want to bring up here, but the Uncommon Energy podcast and the Shift Gear podcast are hosted by Azul and Chip Ritchie, who is one of the casters for the North American side of Pokemon events. And Shift Gear is hosted by Kieran, Farah, and Anil, who's another fantastic player. So be sure to check those out as well. Last but not least, on the YouTube side of things, I know I said a little bit about this from Azul, and the truth of the matter is Azul is a fantastic player as well as a fantastic commentator. And so when he is not talking over all of these tournaments, it's very important to go ahead and VOD review. Now, there are a few ways that you can VOD review. You can do them of your own games. You can record your own games in OBS. You can kind of take a look at what you're doing. It's similar to what we are using Training Court for. But going into these regional level tournaments, these national level tournaments, and even worlds, right? And watching the games, watching how people play, sort of thinking about their justification for their actions, as well as, going to the top 8 specifically and seeing how these high level players who have had lots and lots and lots of success at this point, right? Because they're in that top 8, are playing the game. See what differences there are in their play from what you tend to do, and maybe try and leverage that. I'm not going to say that, every person playing on stream is always playing optimally. That's certainly not the case, but we want to have a full understanding of how people that are seeing success are playing so that we can compare that to our own gameplay and analyze what might need to be different in order to improve. So that's it for the YouTube side of things. We're going to get into a couple more, but yeah, I think that there is a lot to be learned from consuming content. So I think if you can focus on one piece of this video, watching YouTube content, including my own content, right, is going to be incredibly, incredibly helpful for improvement. Next up, I want to give a special shout out to PokeDuels. PokeDuels has been working very, very hard to bring free and fantastic content to the community for a very long time. On his website, pokeduels.net, you will find a whole plethora of free articles by some of the best players in the game. He is bringing this content to the whole community for free, which I think is a fantastic endeavor. Typically speaking, you will have to pay for article content. As far as I'm aware, PokeDuels is the only one who is posting full-length articles for free in such a public way from such high-level players at this time. So coming here, reading the articles that he's putting out, I know personally right now I'm writing a Gardevoir EX article for him, so you'll be able to see that. I also was able to write a Terapagos EX guide for him, but really just clicking on some of these things. This is a 25-minute article by someone who was the highest placing Snorlax player in the Louisville Regional Championships. It talks about his road to choosing to play Snorlax, how to play the matchups, how he played his matchups in the tournament. This is so much content that you're getting for free. I cannot emphasize enough how fantastic of a resource this is. Like I said, you're getting it from some of the best players in the game. Makani is a multi-time top 8 player. Zach Lesage, one of the historically best players in the game. Christian Fontenot, a regional winner, right? You have all of these great players. You have me and Jem here as well, 2 of the TSS goons. But yeah, just fantastic content that you're getting for free. So definitely check out PokeDuels as well. Moving on over to Twitter, it's a little bit difficult to find specific resources on Twitter, so I'm not going to recommend too many people specifically. If the goal is information, I can certainly give some recommendations there. So if something you're interested in is finding ways to get more information about how to play the game, you know, resources for information, I can certainly make a video on that. So let me know down below if that's something you're interested in. But in terms of improvement, I think that this is a very good place to start. We have PokeHive TCG. They post very cool graphics breaking down the, you know, meta shares of various major tournaments. This is cool. This is information that we can find other places though. However, what really makes PokeHive stand out are these breakdowns that they do, where they will take all of the matches that were played in day 2 of a specific subset of regional championships and international championships, and they will break down the matchup spreads of each of these decks. Now, I'm not going to say that these will be perfect one-to-one representations of how these decks do into each other. Ultimately, Pokemon is a game that includes RNG, right? There is variance in Pokemon, and so you are going to have situations where, you know, maybe Lost Box is very good into Lugia, but there are only 5 games played, and maybe these 2 wins or 2 ties would have been wins. Time just ran out, right? So I don't want you to take these things as gospel, but it is a great place to start with understanding specific decks matchups into each other, as well as if you're looking for the highest placing lists, right? You can find those on Limitless, but PokeHive also included in these things will show you the various lists that performed the best at, you know, whatever tournament. In this case, Lil Regionals is the deck that is being looked at. And so just being able to like visualize how these decks do into each other, right? Palkia Dusknoir is a very like popular deck right now that wasn't really talked about before Stefan Ivanov was able to top 4 with it in Dortmund. But you look at this matchup spread and it makes a lot of sense why it's seeing so much hype, right? It's got some very positive matchups, but a lot of 50-50 as well. So it gives you the opportunity to express a lot of skill, and having more of an intimate understanding of how these decks are actually interacting with each other in tournaments is an incredibly valuable resource. So I'm going to recommend PokeHive to you. And my second recommendation with Twitter is going to be this. Like I said, it's a little bit difficult to have like specific Twitter accounts to go to with the intention of improvement. So what I'm going to suggest is that you do what I do and just go and follow your favorite Pokemon TCG players. Alex Szymanski is a good friend of mine. If you've seen my YouTube channel's thumbnail, it's the same picture here, so I'm a little bit biased, but Alex is, you know, my favorite Pokemon TCG player, and he is constantly putting out, you know, well, TSS ads for one thing, but he is constantly putting out very solid content. And so if you go to these very good players and you follow them, the odds of you picking up on things, especially when they feel inspired to tweet out their opinions, those things are going to help you improve as well. So be sure to go over to Twitter, pick your favorite Pokemon TCG player, and odds are they're going to have a Twitter that you can follow, and then all you have to do is sit and listen until you get that free information. Now, the last thing that I want to cover today is going to be TCGmasters.net. Now, TCG Masters is a really interesting platform. I don't know how long exactly it's been around, but basically what it is it's a simulator that allows you to play both sides of the board. It's a fully automated simulator, so you'll plug in 2 decks here. These are the decks that they have. They have some decks that are, you know, recent regional results that will just like auto populate in, but you can also go to Limitless and take whatever deck list you want and copy paste them into there. But then what happens is you get to play against yourself in an automated simulator. So let's say it's my turn, I'm playing Dragapult, here's what I've got in my deck. I get Duskull, like, okay, all right, Buddy Poffin, you know, we'll get Duskull, Dreepy, Nestball, we'll get, you know, Tatsugiri. I'll play out my turn. I'm going first, so I can't evolve, you know, I'll attach. And then I say, oh shoot, I'm against Lugia. Actually, what I could have done here was Buddy Poffin for these pieces, of course, but then Nestballed for Rotom, because I'm not really pressured. I'm not going to lose a 2-Pressure on my first turn. I'm against Lugia, so it's probably better for me to make this play. You can do that via this little undo button. And what makes this such a fantastic resource really is that undo button. It gives you the opportunity to play out a whole game once you've lost, right? Analyzing your plays. All you have to do, if you want to try something else, is click that undo button, right? And once you click the undo button, you can go back and you can actually see how these changes in your plays are impacting the game. I cannot stress enough how awesome that is. Not just having that undo button, but also the speed at which you can get so much practicing. Now, one piece of TCG Masters that is kind of an important thing to acknowledge is that you're only ever playing against yourself. So that can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing, right? It's going to give you a consistent level of skill across all of your games because you're playing against yourself. Same person has the same amount of skill in theory, right? So that can be a very good thing if you're looking to get solid practice and you know that you have a good understanding of how to play all of your decks. That can be very, very positive, right? The downside is if you're not as comfortable piloting every deck, you know, you're maybe not going to be making the right choices in every single game. And so it can kind of be a double-edged sword when compared to the TCG Live Ladder, which is going to have a much more varied level of skill across your games. But, you know, on average, you know, you're going to play against maybe better players the higher you are in a ranked ladder. So just another tool that you can use to practice as well. There are a couple other free features here. You can copy board states, you know, you can, you know, copy the logs here as well, much like the export from TCG Live. But this is just a great way to practice. If you don't like the slog of TCG Live, this is another fantastic opportunity for you to play against yourself, especially if you don't have the opportunity to, you know, test in person with your friends, or you really, like I said, you don't love TCG Live. This is a great simulator. It's a fantastic way to practice. If you're just looking to jam like 50 games of a single matchup, right? There's no variance in what you play against because you get to pick both sides of the deck. So you can just jam 50 games of a single matchup and get that preparation in so that you feel ready to go in any matchup. That's it. That's all of the free resources that I am going to be covering today. I hope that you all feel that you have learned something new. If you liked this video, I would really appreciate you leaving a like. If you're interested in other videos of this type, please go ahead and comment down below. I'm happy to kind of educate as much as I possibly can on how to improve at the game. You know, I've already considered doing one of these videos for monetized platforms that you can go and get information from. I would also be super thrilled to do something like a guide to, you know, where you need to go to find tournament signups and things like that. So let me know in the comments down below if that's something that you'd be interested in. But thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.